Be careful of something that's just what you want it to be.
So your album, The Waylon Sessions, was released on May 28th, I believe. Is that right?
It was.
And my go-to question to start things off with is, so what was it like releasing an album in this environment in these days, as it were?
Well, it was a whole bunch of online stuff, which is fun. We did do the big record release show on the 28th, which was great.
Right.
And so that was great. We were, I probably had more time to prepare. I'm probably better prepared for this record than anyone ever before.
Right.
And I've got to do a lot of stuff, and I didn't have to do it while traveling.
Right.
So, I could complain about there not being as many shows as I'd like, or just doing a whole lot of talking about music, which seems counterintuitive, but
yeah.
But it hasn't been terrible,
Oh, that's good.
Given me it's been interesting, you got to make the most of it. So.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of shows, do you have one coming up in Ohio somewhere in a couple of days?
I do. Columbus, Ohio, June 11th. And then I'm working on a handful of other shows for the rest of the year. And then we'll really sort of pick up in 2022.
Right. So what's the show going to be like? You in a band and you're going to be playing songs from the record? What?
This Columbus, Ohio show will be me and Joe McMahon, who's my co-star in all my videos.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's he's really a guitar player. He's a fantastic guitar player. I just kept telling him, I think you should act. He's so deadpan and he's so funny. So we're just he's just doing this one duo show with me. And then the rest of June, I go to Marfa, Texas for 2 weeks.
Oh, right.
Most Julys and Decembers, I go to Marfa, Texas for 2 weeks to work with Terry Allen and the Panhandle Mystery Band. We sort of hole up at the St. George Hotel there and do sorry. Come here. My big bad Chihuahua.
Yeah, sounds ferocious.
Oh my goodness, he's relentless is what he is.
Yeah.
Hey, come on now. Come on. The bad guy's in here. Come. Not gonna come.
No. I'm meeting all the pets of all the stars these days.
Yes. I mean, they like to be present and accounted for. You can't see my cats who are also sort of lining up in here. Whenever I start doing anything, they
realize that they're not the center of attention all of a sudden. It drives them crazy.
Yeah, and if I start singing, then the cats are literally in my lap, like
really?
Kisses on my face. Yeah. Just they're funny that way. So
I love it. That's
I could go strangle him if I need to.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. It's up to you.
Yeah. He'll drive me insane. So let me
go for it. Yes. So we have a fairly thriving Americana scene down here in New Zealand as well. So it's Waylon and the rest of them are no surprise to us. But what draws you to Waylon Jennings as opposed to any other outlaw?
Oh, well, my humble opinion, he's the best of them all.
Right.
He's the most interesting for sure. And he's the most unique, He really is the most unique. He was really creative, and he's from West Texas in Arizona, and that gives him there's something about that I think that makes him just different than the rest of them, and also his early career, he first worked with. My brain is Buddy Holly. And, so he really kind of comes out of that sort of very early genius rock and roll thing before everything really fractured and into rock and roll and country and blues and Western, and when it was all kind of one thing, and which really it's natural state. I mean, I think genres are, just just giving something a name, just to label it is designed to limit it, So I think that he comes from a place of no fences, which
Gotcha.
is what makes him the most interesting to me.
So you've been making music for quite a while. Has that genre thing been a problem for you to deal with? That people would want to pigeonhole you in one thing or another?
Yeah, and apparently they can't be done. So that's really
That's good. Keep them on their toes.
yeah, apparently that it can't be done, and nobody knows what. I've definitely heard that my whole career. Nobody knows what to do with you. So, I figure when they saying that to you, that means you're really good.
Right. And does it affect like getting on the radio? Because radio is
Sure, it affects everything. It affects everything, no matter how much you think you're tilting left or right or up or down. It's never enough, or it's too much. So there's no winning. There's no winning that, because the parameters are too narrow.
Gotcha. So the tunes that are comprise the Waylon Sessions, when were those sessions taking place? Were they a while ago, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, during pandemic? That's how we look at things these days.
Yeah, they were pre-pandemic sessions. We recorded the record in September of 2019. September of 2019. And really it'd take 4 days to record, which was, the body of the record.
Yeah.
I mean, I did overdubs and sort of chased everybody down after that. But it was definitely pre-pandemic. Yeah.
Oh, and what were the sessions like? I mean, what was the vibe?
The sessions were great. They were very exciting to me. I was nervous only because it's one thing to think of doing something, and it's another to do it, and it's another to then step behind the microphone and go, okay, I just picked Godzilla, I just picked this really well-known giant of a mountain, of a man, to invoke. And so it was daunting, but it was exciting. I had a great band, and they were, what's nice about music is that if you're just really, I've noticed this, during my career, it's like, if you step up to the microphone with the goods, then nobody cares who's in the room and who's not in the room. And you're immediately one of them, or it's just not a thing. So the music is a great equalizer.
Right. And just curious, did you ever meet Waylon?
I never met Waylon, no.
Wow.
I have met Willie Nelson a number of times, and Billy Joe Shaver. I knew Billy Joe Shaver better than Willie. I met a lot of, and Terry Allen, and those, Rodney Crowell, Steve Earle. So I knew a lot of people. That was very, very one degree of separation.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's close enough. Speaking of Billy Joe Shaver, several of his songs are on the record. A lot that are people probably think they're Waylon Jennings songs, but they're his. So You Asked Me To is one of the ones that shows up there. So tell me a little bit about the selection of the songs and how you came about choosing what you did.
Sure. He's back at it.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, I wanted two things out of it. I mean, when I went in to do the record, I did not have a narrative in place. I had a rough outline of a concept. I knew I wanted to sing these songs, and I knew who I wanted in the studio. And so picking the songs, it wasn't like a highly calculated, nothing about this record was highly calculated. I'm not much for calculation. Not that I don't like to plan ahead, but yep. I believe in I trust my instincts, and I trust myself in the moment. And so the songs were basically, I wanted two things out of the record. One, for people who know Waylon, whether they knew him really well personally, or they spent their whole lives and he was sort of the centerpiece of their record collection. I wanted to hit certain nerve endings for them, and do that justice. You know, I wanted to do the catalog justice.
Yeah.
And then the other part of me, I mean, aside from just wanting to sing what I wanted to sing, you know, I sang my favorite songs, but the other part of it was, you know, I hope that, and the plan was that people who've never heard Waylon, young people,
Sure.
would have the opportunity to hear him. And I wanted to kind of sum it all up and get it right for them, you know, for people who never heard it. So there were a couple of songs that I included specifically because I thought, well, this was a big one and this should be on the list. You know, I mean, Mamas, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, probably being that one, you know.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And I had talked to Connie Nelson and Willie Nelson's wife and Jesse Coulter and asked their opinion about that song. And they both said, yeah, that was, you know, if there was a time capsule from 19, whatever year it was, 78, 79, that would be in it. That was a humongous hit. Yeah. And so, but everything else I sang because it really talked to me on an instinctive level. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a singer and a guitar player. Right. And I have very selfish motivations of I want to sing what I want to sing.
Yeah, very cool. Speaking of Billy Joe Shaver, you did Black Rose as well, and there's a video that you made for it, which is rather entertaining. Do you enjoy doing that part of the promotion and?
Oh, I really did.
Stuff?
Blast.
Well, the devil made me do it the first time. The second time I've done it on my own. Lord, put a handle on a simple-headed gal. Help me leave that black rose alone.
I've never really I've never had that much fun making videos before, and I loved it. My friend Joe McMahon is my partner in the video. Right. He actually plays with me on the road, and he's from Arkansas. You know, he's right there from the middle of the country. He's got this very dry sense of humor. He's wicked smart, and he's a great sort of straight man, you know, to the whole thing. And so it was really fun. And we made 3 videos in one day, and it was really fun. Right. And you do have some notable people on the record. You mentioned Jesse Coulter, and there's a gentleman by the name of Fred Newell who was in Waylon's band, right? He played. Yeah. What was it like having him involved? Well, was it intimidating? Yeah. Yes, just for a minute. Yeah. When he first got there, I thought, okay, now this is now where maybe I've bitten off too much. You know, maybe I'm embarrassed. This was a big chunk. But Fred, Fred, not only did he play with Waylon Jennings, but he played on hundreds and hundreds of records in Nashville. Right. You know, from the late 70s to the late 90s, maybe to the late 2000s. I mean, you name him, he played with them. Right. And nicest guy ever, you know, nicest, easygoing, understated, not there to compete, just there to like play the part. Yep. Do it not. You know, but he was the oldest member of the band, and he was the only one who, you know, knew Waylon personally. Right. So, you know, I was definitely nervous around him, but he you know, he calls everybody Hoss too, like Waylon. Man, so cool. Immediately I thought, all right, this is fine. I got this.
That's great. I'd love to be called Hoss.
Yeah. But Hoss is one of those funny words. It has 100 different meanings depending on your tone of voice. It's like Chinese, you know, it's the same sound, but if it's in a different tone of voice, it means something else. You know, hello could be cucumber, you don't know. But Hoss is like that, you know. Well, here in New Zealand, mate is the same way. They call you mate, but it could be in term of endearment or dripping with sarcasm, you know. Yeah. Yes. Or the last word you hear before a bar fight. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Yeah. So in addition to the Waylon-ish songs, you do things like Help Me Make It Through the Night. So what caused you to kind of mix those in there?
Take the ribbon from my hair, shake it loose and let it fall. lay it soft upon my skin, like the shadows on the wall.
Yeah, well, those two, the two Chris Christopherson written songs.
Can't go wrong with Chris, but there you go.
No, you can't. You can't go wrong with them. And my thinking wasn't so much what did Waylon do, but what would Waylon do?
Right.
And there's a distinction, and Waylon enjoyed his friends, and Waylon let the best song win. He didn't write everything he sang. He could sing anything. I think that's like, we have this fascination with, these days particularly, I think just because nobody can make any money off anything, it's like,
That's
if you
a
didn't
fact.
write, it doesn't count. But that's not how all of recorded human history has worked. We sing other songs. I mean, I'm Irish, it's like, who cares who wrote it? They wrote it 200 years ago and we're
Right.
still singing. So,
Yep.
that's how I feel about great songs. But I wanted the camaraderie of it all, so I took a loose, sorry about the dog. Come on now. Hey, Marty. There's no getting his attention unless I stand up. Come in here. Come on. Come here. Oh, she's got him. Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's quite
But
right.
it was loose interpretation, loose interpretation. And what would Waylon do? Waylon would do whatever he wanted to do.
Right. Very good. So did you, I mean, obviously you were a big fan going into this project, but did you learn anything more or have any more insights about the man himself from making this record?
Oh, I sure did. Yeah. I mean, times being what they are, post Me Too, and we're not post Me Too, we're mid Me Too, I guess.
I think so. Yes.
But, we're Me Too and Black Lives Matter and climate change and just this fantastically humongous shift in paradigm and culture worldwide, all of those things going on. It did occur to me that here I'm doing a record pretty exclusively, alpha male, heterosexual 20th century man's man.
Yeah.
And I thought that could bite me,
Right.
But I didn't think it would. And I had a pretty, Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings, they've kind of been, even though they weren't personally in my life, they were kind of in my life, my whole life. I've heard them my whole life. They were primetime. They weren't marginalized little cult figures. These were massive superstars, And so I didn't think I was going to get into too much. I didn't think I was going to have too much apologizing to do for 20th century sins, but I decided to do a little bit of homework. And in talking to Jessie Coulter, she and I both agreed that we'd never heard a woman sing any of these songs.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't know who else could sing this stuff. And, you're sort of perfectly suited to do it. And I said, well, that means a lot, and she said, but I think Waylon would be tickled by it. I think Waylon would love it that you're doing this stuff. He would love it. And then I realized, I thought, well, maybe I'll talk to some more of Waylon's friends, because he had a lot of women friends, and all the Waylon Jennings stories that I've ever heard, all the Willie stories and all these stories, they were, those guys were like they were comrades and they were compadres out there on the road, and they were like a pack, they were a posse. And so I'd heard all of those stories, recounted over and over by various people who knew him and rode with him and stuff like that. And, but they're all men. And so I was curious, like, I wonder what, his women friends would say. And as it turns out, he was completely surrounded by brilliant, sexy, beautiful women who sort of held his feet to the fire. And so I thought they were really and they loved him. I mean, you know what? I honestly did not meet a single woman in the course of this whole 2 years now.
Yeah.
I haven't met a single woman who did not just love him and genuinely,
Right.
like love.
Yeah.
So I took that as, very positive. And,
Cool.
Also his meat and potatoes, like Willie Nelson, was the Native American community here in the United States and Canada. And he was really well loved on reservations. And, so when they were kind of parting ways with Nashville, or parting ways with, old Nashville.
Yeah.
They could do it because they could go hit a bunch of Indian casinos and reservations and make enough money to live. And like, they could go out there and they could go back to their people and they're cowboys, but they were Indians,
Right.
and
I like that.
a little bit of both.
Absolutely.
I mean, they come from border territory. You got to remember that. West Texas is It's Mexican, it's Apache, it's Comanche, it's white, it's cowboys, it's a number of things. And so, maybe you have to pick a side, but some part of you doesn't really ever have to pick a side.
Right.
And when you come from that part of the world.
Yeah. I just watched a film called No Man's Land. It's all about that area between Texas and Mexico and the kind of
Oklahoma.
Area.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they only said, Geronimo, the great Apache chief, he died in 1910. So it's not that long ago. You know what I mean? And if you were living in West Texas in the 40s or the 30s, you're only 20 years post Geronimo.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're only 20. That's not a very long time.
Right.
But just back to your question,
Glad you can remember it.
Waylon checked out. Waylon was on Sesame Street. Waylon was not some good old boy racist,
Right.
misogynistic jerk. He didn't run into that kind of trouble.
Gotcha.
So,
That's cool.
yeah. So I did learn. I suspected that, but I did learn it for sure during this process.
And one thing I'm curious about. So my information is you're from Long Island, right?
I am Long Island, New York.
So how did you get, just in general terms, turned on to Waylon and Willie and all that instead of Billy Joel? Because I'm from upstate New York. I'm kind of familiar with the folks from.
Are you from upstate New York?
Yeah, Rochester.
Yeah, you're from Rochester. All right. Well, I mean, like I said, Willie and Waylon, they were prime time. I mean, I heard Waylon Jennings on the Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, that was prime time TV. That wasn't some, I don't know, a little marginalized thing.
Yeah.
Willie was ever present. Willie Nelson was completely present. And, I mean, on Long Island, we had a lot of music. We had a lot of arts. I grew up right between Jones Beach Amphitheater and Nassau Coliseum.
Right.
So, and on Long Island, we had a lot of classic rock radio. We had rock radio, like real, rock radio that was coming out of the 70s. And New York City, I grew up 40 minutes from New York City. And pretty much New York City, you can get anything you want from anywhere in the world is about a block away.
Yep.
So I didn't grow up thinking about things regionally.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe because I felt like in New York, you feel like you're in the center of the universe.
You're in the melting pot.
Yeah, and everything comes to you. I mean, my people all came from Ireland about 100 years. I mean, I don't know. I never got stuck. I've lived all over the country since then. I've lived in LA and New Orleans and Mississippi and Texas, and I don't know. I like it all. So.
Okay.
I think, it's the same way the Rolling Stones found Muddy Waters, over the radio and in record stores,
Cool. So what's next for you?
Well, just waiting to see how the world shifts out of the pandemic and how we go back to touring live.
Yeah.
That's going to be, slow. For the rest of the year, probably hit it pretty hard next year. Although I will have dates all this year. Just I'm doing more targeted stuff, which is kind of great, so I'm not killing myself out there. and then, making a Shannon McNally record, that's really what I feel like my palette has been cleansed.
Right. Have you got songs ready, or are you
Psyche
thinking about
has
it, or what?
Yeah, my psyche has been washed clean, and I feel more like writing, and I feel more, and I think I think people have a better sense of who I am, so it'll be maybe easier to give them.
That's interesting. People learn more about you because you make a record that's a tribute to someone else. But it's kind of
Well, I
revealing.
think that's how it works.
Yeah, I
that's
think you're
how
right.
it works. I mean, it's a team. Music is a team sport.
Yeah.
None of us are out here by ourselves. I don't care who you are. Nobody's out here by yourself doing it.
Yep.
Music is continuum, You didn't invent it, and it's not going to die with you.
Gotcha. Oh, that's a relief.
Yeah. It's like, don't worry, it's going to be here.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you for being here for me. Thank you for talking to me. I really appreciate it. Come on down to New Zealand if you get a chance and entertain.
Man, I want to.
It's kind of open here, but you just got to get into the country. That's a tricky bit.
Yeah.
You have to go
Well,
into
I'm
like
all vaccinated and everything.
2 weeks of isolation before they allow folks in at the moment.
Well, where do you do that? You got to have a friend, I guess.
Yeah. But we have an open kind of situation between here and Australia now. So although they had a breakout in Melbourne the other day, so that got shut down. So it's kind of tenuous, but it's working. My youngest daughter and her husband just went off to Sydney yesterday. I took them to the airport, and they were very excited to be in the international terminal for the first time in a year or so. So
I bet they were. It's
loosening up a bit. Yeah. So yeah, come on down if you get a chance. We'd love to see you.
Thank you. I will. All
And
right.
have a great day. And good luck with your show in Columbus.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.